Hi there, it's Nicole from Mama Elephant, and today I'm sharing a Beach Chickies 3D pop-up card featuring the brand new Beach Chickies Stamps and Dies, part of the May 2019 release. We're going to combine these with some of the accessory images from the new Summer Splash stamp set. That's going to be an additional crab, some sand castles, the seagull, and beach ball. Everything else is from the Beach Chickies, and I love that they mix and match so well. We're going to be doing no line coloring and then creating loads of dimension and interactive elements with the 3D pop-up card. I'm a huge fan of the 3D pop-up cards, and these images are perfectly sized to create some really fun scenes. I am doing a little no line coloring. I didn't want any harsh black lines for this card. So I am using the Ink on 3 Fade Out No Line Coloring ink. It's going to retain this outline for long enough for the user to color in the images, and then the line will eventually fade, leaving you with what you've colored with the color medium of your choice. I feel probably the most comfortable with no line coloring with my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers, and that's just because that's what I have used the most. I think they're super forgiving, maybe a little more forgiving than Copics. However, with enough practice in any medium, you can do no line coloring. So this is just kind of my go-to, if you will. I love Zigs for all kinds of different coloring effects, whether it's watercolor or just standard coloring like I'm doing here. So there's lots and lots of videos on my channel if you want to see other ideas with my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. I only use Bristol Smooth Cardstock to color in my images because the blending is so super smooth. I was totally drawn to this adorable little chick sitting on a watermelon eating a slice, and I started with him first. I have listed the colors of Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers I'm using somewhere on the screen. I've tried my very best to keep them out of the way of the coloring for the most part. So maybe at the top, maybe at the bottom, but that way if you're ever wondering what colors I've used to color in certain areas of the images, you can find that information there. A dark brown marker has been used for eyes, watermelon seeds, and then to draw in the legs for the chicks. So anytime you see me adding some dark brown, that's what I'm using. If you're not comfortable with that brush tip drawing in a teeny tiny area, you can always take a fine tip black marker and draw in those elements instead. I will be using a black pen. I said marker, I meant a black pen. I will be using a black pen for the chick that is flying with the kite. I know I did not stamp him originally. I'm going to stamp that in addition to what you see here. In fact, I'm going to stamp quite a few additional images. When I first started this card, I wasn't exactly sure how much I was going to need. Often when I am designing a pop-up box card, it can be a little daunting to visualize how many elements you're going to need. So I tend to start with a good number for different layers and things, and then I can build to that as I have built the box and added some of these elements in. So you're going to see me add pretty much every image from the Beach Chickies stamp set. That's going to include the chick with the kite, the little mermaid, the chick with the flamingo floaty, and then we'll add additional images from the Summer Splash stamp set. I'm going to continue coloring all of these in. I like to kind of trace with my darker color. In this case for reds, I'm using Carmine red and light carmine. For the chicks, those are all a combination of bright yellow, yellow, and then a little bit of the blender to lighten that area towards the center of each chick, especially the face. I outline with bright yellow. I kind of pull a little of that bright yellow out with my yellow marker, and then I blend out further with the blender. And then I'm going to add some cheeks with pink haze. This guy's little sand rake is going to be colored with blue and light blue. And this is, I'm so sorry that the words there are going across the coloring a little bit. I flip my paper around quite a bit. The reason I do this is to keep my hand out of the ink so I don't smear it. The ink is water-based. It will dry, but it's not going to dry quite as fast as an alcohol ink-based marker. And I'm always super aware of not dragging my hand through the ink so that it doesn't smear. I've never had trouble with the zigs, but often if you see me flipping my paper around, that's why I do that. I did not list the colors as I'm coloring the beach umbrella. They're going to be a combination of everything you've already seen. And I'm simply coloring in each of these little stripes with a different color to really add interest to the beach umbrella. And the beach umbrella stand itself, we're just going to trace over with a blue marker, that 030 blue, to add the color to that. Now, once I have these elements all colored in, I will take the coordinating Beach Chickies dies, and we want to die cut everything, and we're going to go ahead and assemble our 3D pop-up box. And from there, that's going to give us a really good guide on how many additional images we need to stamp and color or die cut or whatever it might be to fill in all the areas for a full scene card. When I am creating a 3D pop-up box card like this, I want not only the center part back to be full of cute images and really showcase a scene, but I want the side panels to all feature something as well. For the 3D pop-up box, I've got the two panels, so I've die cut two panels using the dies from Hero Hues Ivory Cardstock. And then we've die cut 3 of the insert panels, which can be used either with the smooth side like I'm going to use today for sand, or the grassy edge if you want to flip it the other way for grass. I've got 3 of those, and I'm inking up the edges of the panels with Fawn DOE ink using the life-changing blending brushes. We're going to take some double-sided tape now on the tabs and assemble the box. So on each of the tabs, we're going to put a couple pieces of double-sided tape, and then we want to line up the two panels side by side. We'll remove the backing paper from one of the tabs. We'll line these two panels up side by side and adhere them into one long strip. We don't want to assemble the box yet, and that's because the tabs inside the box are so much easier to adhere before you assemble your box all the way, and I'll show you how. And if you want to do any inking, now is the time as well. So you're going to see me adding some ink to some of these little tabs that fold down on the card using that same dough ink. We're going to take then our different layers and we're going to add adhesive to both sides of the tabs. We're going to do this 3 times exactly the same. You can line these up anywhere you want on the one of the short sides of the box. So I'm going to go ahead and put the first one down. I've only removed one side of the paper, and I've adhered that down onto this one shorter side of the box. We're going to go ahead and adhere both of the other ones. And again, you can add multiple. If you want to add more than just these 3 layers, you want to add less, you can do that. It's completely up to you. I just tried to even them out probably as close to, I just eyeballed it. I did not measure it. So we're going to have 3 total, and I'm lining them all up on this one short side. Once I have that, I'm going to lay them all out in a straight line and remove the backing paper from the other tabbed side. The reason we kept our box flat is because once you have this laid out, you can simply fold that side of the box over onto these tabs and pick them up, and look at that. They are perfectly aligned. So much easier than assembling the box and trying to line them up. Then we'll remove the adhesive from the tab and assemble our box. And there is what our little box looks like. It does not look like much until you start adding in your images. Let's go ahead and add some of those. That's going to give us an idea of how many layers we need. So we're going to need something for the background, and the 3D pop-up box comes with that layer. And something for the sides, and then we can even use the insert to make more little sandy pieces on the background, on the front panel, and then there's a smaller one we can use for the side panels. So you'll see all that in a minute. I'm going to play around with the elements. We've got our chickie on the beach towel and the umbrella on that first layer. We're going to have our two chickies building a sand castle on the second layer, and that's going to include one of the sand castle pieces. So the little sand castle piece will be between them. And my goal in this is to just create that depth and dimension, but still kind of be able to see everything going on. So the chickie on the beach blankets shifted over to the right. These two little guys are shifted over to the left. And then we're going to have some height in that third layer with the chick flying a kite and some more sand castle. I've also got a little crab that I've added black eyes with a glaze pen, and we're going to add that on that front layer. This gives me an idea of how many more images I need. So let's go back and stamp and color a few more designs to fill in our little beach scene. We've got our little mermaid or sand-covered chickie. You can do it however you want. I kind of did it more mermaidy looking. Again, I have listed those colors. I incorporated a couple of different colors here. We've got turquoise green and green shadow, and then peach pink and sugared almond pink for the star, and bright yellow and yellow for the chick, dark brown for the eyes. We've got the cute little chickie with his flamingo floaty. Again, peach pink and sugared almond pink for that floaty, dark brown for the for the chick's legs, and bright yellow and yellow for the flamingo beak. We're going to color in then very colorful, just like the beach umbrella that's really rainbowy colored. Our kite's going to have rainbow colors, and our beach ball is going to have rainbow colors, so that there's lots of bright, colorful elements throughout, especially with all of the yellow chicks. Now the kite string, I was afraid of using a brush tip and making it too wide, so I'm going to use a Tombow Mono black pen. This is a very fine tip pen to trace that, and then we'll color in the little bows on the kite string with some zig markers for color. There is the little coconut drink and the sandcastle piece that we'll color in as well. Sandcastles are all beige and medium beige. We are going to add a little topper to this with some reds, with the Carmine red and light Carmine. And then use our black fine tip pen to add the detail in. And then the coconut, also beige, medium beige. The little slice of pineapple is going to be bright yellow and yellow. Kind of the little palm tree accent, little stick in there or whatever. Light green and yellow green. And the straw will be peach pink. And then for the liquid in there, we'll use a little light blue. We're going to die cut these now and go ahead and see where we can fit these into our design. That's also going to include adding our layers on the background of the card and on those front tabs. I do want to mention, on my card today, I did not concern myself too much with if things stuck up above the back of the card. Please keep in mind, if you want to ship this in a send this in a standard envelope, everything needs to stay down below the top edge of the card. If you don't care about that and you're going to hand deliver it, they can stick up a little higher. So my sentiment on the thought bubble and my chickie with the kite all stick up higher than the edge of the box. And that's okay for this because I'll just make sure I hand deliver this element. You can see I've added lots of ink now. I added some Fish Tank Lawn Fawn ink to one of my panels that's going to be used in the background of my card. I'm also adding a sandy border. I simply die cut that same insert piece that we used for the sandy layers inside the box, and I trimmed off the tabs, and we're going to layer that in the background for additional sand. We will also do the same thing for the front panel of this card, and then we've got smaller ones using the side dies for the sides of the box. So it gives kind of the illusion of a blue sky in the background, or it could even be water, whatever you want it to be. We're putting our front tab on. Now I'm going to stamp a sentiment from the Mini Everyday Messages on this front little border. It's going to say, "Because I love you," and we'll actually use a couple more sentiments from the Mini Everyday Messages on the sides. And I'll stamp those a little later. That was an afterthought, so I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. I've trimmed up the edge and got rid of that grassy edge along the bottom as well. And then we're going to glue our little mermaid chickie and the drink on the front panel. These little side panels are going to go on both sides exactly the same. We've got a little square, we've got a little sandy border. We're going to trim up the grass edge and use the sand edge instead, or that nice kind of curved edge. My favorite little trick for adding something that floats up above the edge is to use some clear acetate, which I hold on to. I have scraps of it. I trim it into thin strips, and then I'm going to attach one end of that to the element that I want to stick up from the box card, and the other side is going to be adhered to one of those borders, and it's going to give the illusion of that chick floating, but he will be secured to the card design. So just a neat little way to add elements that look like they're floating up. It's one of my favorite little tips with creating these 3D box cards. And there you can see how much the kite sticks up above. If you don't want it to do that, I would suggest tucking it down a little bit lower. We're going to glue a few more things down in place. Kind of sorry that's out of the frame of the scene a bit. I apologize for that. And then we have stamped the larger sandcastle image, beach ball, and a crab from the Summer Splash stamp set, and another crab from the Beach Chickies. We're going to color those in. We are going to die cut these and then use those on our card, and that really should round out the images. I had to keep coming back and adding more to really kind of fill it in the way I wanted it to look. You can definitely just kind of keep going if you want to. These tend to be a little on the smaller side, so I felt like I needed a little bit more to really make a full beachy scene. With a little bit bigger images, you might want to use a little less. It's really just a judgment call on your personal preference. I'm going to add a crab to a side panel, a crab to the front panel. Our beach ball over there with our little chickie and the flamingo floaty. We're going to take our sentiment from the Beach Chickies stamp set, stamp this on white cardstock, and die cut it with the speech bubble from the 3D pop-up card dies, and then adhere this to the background of the card. And this reads, "Sending you lots of sunshine." And then the additional sentiments we're going to use are from the Mini Everyday Messages, which we've already stamped "Because I Love You." And then on the sides of the box, we are going to put this in our MISTI so we stamp it perfectly. We're going to stamp "You're the Bestest," and big hugs. And I'm stamping these with the dough ink over what I've inked with the dough ink with the life-changing blending brushes. So they really kind of blend into the sand and they're not that harsh black. I tried to stay away from a harsh black outline for my beach scene. And you can see how this folds completely flat, which is awesome, and then pops up into a fun little box. We'll stamp our last sentiment. Perfect. How cute is this little chickie beach scene? So much fun, you guys. I decided last minute we needed a couple little seagulls. So I'm going to stamp this from the Summer Splash stamp set. Outline them with a gray, a light gray, a blender, a little black fine tip pen for detail, and the bright orange for the beaks. Die cut these, and then remember we added the chickie on the kite on a clear piece of acetate. One of these gulls is going to be attached the same way, but it's mostly so it looks like he's standing on top of one of the chick's heads. There isn't a great way to secure him. And the other one is standing on the beach ball. So this one is going to look like he is sitting on this little chick's head that's building a sandcastle, and he is secured with a little clear piece. And that really helps so that I don't have to glue it clear onto the chickie, and he's nice and secure. I don't have to worry about him maybe falling off or something like that. And there he is, and that's perfect. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this beach scene card featuring the Beach Chickies stamps and dies and the 3D pop-up card dies. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies that you might be interested in. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.